Hi everyone, for today's video I'm going to be sitting down and doing a review and wear test on the new LYS brand. If you guys have not heard of LYS, it is a brand new brand that released on Valentine's Day. They are Black owned and vegan and they use clean ingredients, and they are also being sold in Sephora. I have 4 shades to share with you guys today. I originally purchased 2 shades that were just way too dark, and then on Sephora I went ahead and purchased 2 more. I did Sephora this time because I felt like if I needed to return a shade, I could easily do that and just go to a Sephora and return it, whereas I don't really know what the LYS return policy is directly from the website. So that is something to keep in mind, but hopefully if you are similar in skin tone to mine, I do have a perfect shade match after I purchased from Sephora, and hopefully me swatching the 4 shades that I do have will help you pick out what you're looking for. I also am going to be using the primer, and then I have the bronzer and a setting powder from the brand, and then I have a cream blush. Before I apply my primer, I do want to swatch on my jawline the 4 foundation shades that I have. So this line has 35 foundation shades, which is not too bad, but when you get to the medium range, I feel like they are missing a tan medium section because it basically goes straight from tan to medium. There is one shade that is called TG1, which is a golden latte, and it is for light tan skin with golden undertones. I kind of wonder if that would be a good match for me as well, but that is the only shade that is considered a light tan. I have 2 shades from the tan range and 2 shades from the medium range, and there is a drastic difference, but I am going to show you guys them swatched right now. So the darkest shade that I have from the line is TG5, and this is what I felt would match me the most when I originally purchased. And I'm just going to swatch it on my jawline. I actually used their foundation finder, and I used the foundation finder that lets you put in like a foundation from another brand. The foundation that I used is the Bare Minerals Bare Pro in 18 Pecan. It's so much lighter than the one that they recommended. And what's even more interesting is that they actually recommended TG6, which again, the one that I ended up purchasing was TG5. So if I went with the recommendation on the website, I would have ended up with an even darker foundation, and that is the LYS TG5, and then right next to it is my Bare Minerals Bare Pro in 18 Pecan. So I highly recommend that if you are shopping for this foundation, you go ahead, look up swatches, look up video reviews of people who have similar skin tone as you. I would not trust the foundation finder on the website at all. The next foundation I have is TN3. I thought I would get a neutral shade just to see what the neutral shades looked like, because I do sometimes fall into a neutral category whenever a brand has a like golden undertone that's a little bit too yellow. But I don't think that the neutral would suit me from this brand. It definitely is a little bit more leaning on the cool side. I don't know, I feel like it's leaning more on the red side and cool side, and I just don't think that that would suit me. Obviously, it is much too dark for me, but I think regardless, I don't think that the neutral range from this line would be best. Definitely leaning a little bit more golden, but both of these shades are just way too dark, and these are the 2 original shades that I picked out from the line. Now, I usually don't do tan shades, especially in the winter time, but for some reason, the shade finder was really convincing me, because I thought it was weird that a shade that I use in the winter time, which is my Bare Pro 18 Pecan, it was recommending a tan shade for me to purchase. So I was like, maybe the shade range is a little bit off, or like the colors are just not the same as other brands. I'm going to try it, and I really just should not have. So the shade that I'm going to be using today is MG5. It is a perfect spot on match for my skin tone this time of year. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen me swatch all of these yesterday. But yeah, it just really blends right into the skin. I would almost say that maybe it's a little bit, like a dash lighter than what I would consider to be my perfect shade, but Honestly, no. Like, it blends right in. You can barely even see it on my skin. So it's pretty perfect. I am definitely going to keep the TG5 because I do think that that will eventually match me in the summertime. And if anything, I can always mix TG5 in with MG5. But considering these are like kind of the same shade but in tan and medium categories, I would think that they definitely need to have a tan medium in the middle of TG5 and MG5. They absolutely need to have a tan medium shade. And then I have MG2, which is the lightest shade that I have. And I do think I am going to be returning this shade to Sephora because I don't think that there is any point in the year that I am this light. But that is what that shade looks like. See, MG5 just completely melted in the skin. You can barely even notice that there's a swatch there. So if you are a foundation twin and you also follow my like getting lighter in the winter, getting darker in the summer, MG5 is perfect for this time of year. But those are the swatches of the foundation shades that I have, and then those are hand swatches of all of the foundations. The formula is really nice and beautiful, creamy, full coverage. It doesn't lean super dewy and it really doesn't lean super matte either. I think it's a good in between. All right, so let's talk about the primer for a second. This is the LYS Secure Skin Gripping Serum Primer. I thought that I would really absolutely love and adore this primer. You need about half of the product that you think that you need from this primer. If you use more of it, you are really in trouble. And I'm actually only going to be using primer on half of my face. I don't even think I'm going to be using all of the primer that I squirted out. But I'm only using primer on half my face because I actually do want to see how the foundation performs without it. The primer sometimes messes up my whole look because if you use too much of this primer, your foundation will flake off. If you use the primer and then apply product on top of it with a damp sponge, your makeup will like not even apply. Or if you put the foundation on your skin, use a wet sponge to blend out concealer, the foundation will just lift. It's a total mess. Honestly, I would tell you to just skip the primer, but if you really do want to make the primer work, you can. Just use a really, really small amount of the primer and also do not use a wet sponge whenever you use this primer. I don't love this primer. I don't think it's, I think there's better gripping primers out there, but honestly, I end up skipping primer a lot of the time anyway. This side of my face is primed with the Secure Skin Gripping Serum Primer, and we're just gonna see how different the sides hold up throughout the day. I kind of am expecting not that much of a difference, but we'll see obviously. Okay, so blended out all over the skin, it is looking a little light. That's why I kind of think that maybe the TG1, which is the light tan shade, would match a bit better, but I don't have it, so yeah, just is what it is. Yeah, it is like kind of light, but I will say like when I get the rest of my face on, blush, powder, and bronzer, it's really not, it's not that big of a difference. Okay, yes, the splotchiness is already starting. Look, right here. What is that? What is that? I didn't even use, yeah. And it definitely is the primer, because when I've used the primer with other foundations, I've had the same exact issue. All right, so let's get the foundation on the other side. By the way, the brush that I'm using is from Revlon. It is the buffing foundation brush. I did try and look this brush up to see like where you can buy it, and it doesn't look like it's in stores anywhere. Oh my gosh, I'm upset. Is that me? Maybe that's from my foundation swatches. Okay. I'm going to kind of let that dry a little bit and then reapply the primer and then go over and apply the foundation. Also, if you're wondering what the splotchiness is on my neck, it is, I think, an allergic reaction to my new Perricone moisturizer, which Kind of a bummer, but my mom also has had that same reaction to Perricone products in the past, so I think it's literally exactly what that is. Alright, I'm applying a little bit of the gripping primer just like here, and then I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. I'll comb out my brows while we're at it. I'm going to apply my concealer very carefully. I am applying a little bit on the back of my hand first, and then I'm taking a little concealer brush and I'm going to apply it directly to my skin from the concealer brush. And I'm doing this literally because I cannot use a damp sponge on top of this foundation with this primer. It will actually like not work. Wow, you can really just tell how much more smooth my skin is without the primer. That's kind of unheard of. I totally think that you need to skip the primer. Alright, I'm going back in. Hopefully it's a little bit more smooth. So I really don't know if you'll be able to tell, but I feel like my skin on this side is so much more smooth and skin-like. And then this side where I have the primer, I feel like you can see the makeup on my skin. It looks like it's like almost beginning to separate, in my opinion. Watch you like not even be able to tell the difference, but primed, not primed, and I definitely feel like you should skip the primer if you are wanting to buy from this brand. I'm now going in with their setting powder. This is the Triple Fix Translucent Setting Powder, and I have mine in Resilience Translucent. There are 4 shades of this setting powder, and I have the lightest, which is the translucent shade. The reason I went with the translucent shade is because I usually use translucent powders anyway. I don't love when my powders have color to them. And I'm definitely hitting my under eyes. I really hope that you guys could have seen in that close-up how much different my skin looks on both sides. So now that I just powdered my face, everything feels a lot more secure. I think that this powder is fine, but powder to me is powder. I definitely prefer a loose powder, but this one is very nice and soft and like not heavy, so I'm not too worried about it. The next product I have from the line is their No Limits Matte Bronzer, and I have mine in Harmony Medium. There are 5 shades in this matte bronzer, and I love this shade for my complexion. I like to take the Real Techniques Light Layer Blush Brush. It is a angled, kind of fluffy, almost duo fiber, and it applies the product so nicely. I love this shade for my skin. Yeah, I think that this is a really great shade for me. I really like using it. And I'm going to put a little bit on my nose. And also we will apply some in the crease. I think I applied a little bit too much to my nose, but and then I always like to run my foundation brush up underneath. I definitely think the powder helped with smoothing out my under eyes, but I was really upset about the fact that with the primer my skin was so much like more textured looking. You would think that that would be the opposite. So yeah, just going back in, making sure that the color is really nicely added to my skin. So the bronzer texture really reminds me of the Becca Sunlit Bronzer. It has like a little bit more of a satin finish, which I prefer in bronzers. I don't love when bronzers are like totally flat matte. So I wanted to swatch some other bronzers for you. This one right here is the LYS Harmony Bronzer. Right next to it is my Becca Sunlit Bronzer. It definitely leans a little bit more red, but I feel the finish and texture are so similar. Then right next to it is my Nabla bronzer, and that's in the shade Soft Revenge. Right next to it is my Thrive Cosmetics bronzer in EOS. And then swatched right on the bottom is the Chantecaille bronzer that I have. So those bronzers are all different types of bronzers swatched from my collection. And I feel like the one that matches Harmony the most is probably the Chantecaille bronzer or my Thrive Cosmetics bronzer. But texture-wise, I really think that the LYS bronzer is super similar to my Becca Sunlit bronzer, which is probably why I like it so much. The last product that I have from LYS is the High Standard Satin Matte Cream Blush in the shade Confident. I felt like Confident would suit me the most and be most in the family of cream blushes that I like to wear. I am just using my e.l.f. Putty Blush Brush to apply this product. So LYS does have a line of brushes that I was kind of curious about. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I really don't like this primer. I don't think I'm going to continue using it after this review. But LYS does have a line of brushes, and I kind of was curious about them, but I ended up not picking up any because I just have so many brushes that I like to use. But the brushes look really nice, high quality. So yeah, this is what Confident is looking like on my skin. I think it's really flattering. What does Confident look like on my lips? Pretty cute. It definitely is a very interesting formula. The cream matte that they're talking about, I definitely feel that considering this is a cream blush, it really doesn't have that much shine. You know, maybe if you're oily, you might like that because it is still a cream blush, but it might not accentuate your texture as much. That is a really, really pretty color on the lips. Wow, I really just like my makeup so much more on the unprimed side. So throughout my makeup application, I always go back in with my foundation brush and I'm constantly like blending product out and stuff. But look at what that does to the prime side, and then literally like nothing fishy is happening on my non-prime side. So I went ahead and swatched blushes in my collection that I felt looked similar enough in their packaging. So this one is Confident from LYS. This next one is a Milani Cheek Kiss in the shade Nude Kiss. The next one is an Undone Beauty Lip to Cheek blush in the shade Poppy. Right next to that is the Nude Sticks blush in Beach Babe, and then underneath it all is the Milk Cosmetics stick blush in the shade Work It. I don't really know if any of these shades are like super duper similar, but it's a good idea to see kind of like the finish of them. You can definitely tell compared to all of these other cream products that the LYS is definitely not as shiny and dewy as the other ones. So that could definitely be something that draws you into the blush if you are looking for a cream blush that's like not super dewy shiny. So at the time of me filming this, there are no eye products from the LYS line. So I went ahead and did that off camera, and I kept the Harmony blush on my lips, except I added a little bit of my M Cosmetics Venetian Rose lip cushion over top of it to hydrate my lips a little bit more. But this is what my skin is looking like now that my whole face is done. I always feel like, you know, the brows and mascara complete a look for sure. I am going to spray some Urban Decay All Nighter on my skin because I always spray All Nighter. Just goes without fail no matter what I'm doing. After I sprayed my all-nighter, I feel like my face is looking really nice and smooth. Even the prime side that was giving me some issues, I feel it looks pretty decent now. Definitely prefer my unprimed side. I just feel like everything looks way more smooth, and you can really see how nice the foundation is without the primer. I'm sad to say, like, the primer really does ruin these products, I feel. And yeah, I totally am having like an issue right on my nose, underneath of my eyes. It's not super smooth, and like over here, it's just really not working for me. I'm gonna pull you guys in closer. So I've pulled you guys in closer so that you guys can see the skin. And again, this is my primed side, and then this is my unprimed side. So the time right now is 7:50 a.m. I will check in a bit later, maybe around 3 o'clock, to give you guys a check-in and see how this makeup is holding up. I do feel like this line is a great addition to the beauty industry. I love that it is vegan, cruelty-free, clean, black-owned, woman-owned. I just love that all. Even the name is really cute. It is Love Yourself, so LYS stands for Love Yourself. I think that's really adorable. I really like the bronzer. I really like the blush. The setting powder is okay. The foundation on its own, I will say, is super nice. I love the fact that it is a more natural finish, full coverage foundation. I feel like we need more of that, and I definitely feel like it will suit skin from all different types, but I definitely feel they need to work on their shade range if it truly does go from like tan to medium. We need something in between. I can't obviously speak for the super fair shades or the super deep shades, but I will speak for the medium shades. It's lacking. But like I said earlier, I will be back in a little bit to do a check-in and give you guys my overall thoughts. So it's still like 8 a.m., but I did want to show you guys what the makeup is looking like in natural light, since I'm getting a lot of natural light from my window right here. But yeah, this is what the makeup is looking like. It looks really nice and, you know, fresh. I can't really see because the sun is really bright, but yeah, that's just what the makeup is looking like in natural lighting. Hi everyone, you might recognize the room that I'm in. I am actually home right now in the bonus room that I used to film in. I wanted to do my check-in here. I came home to run some errands with my mom. It's about 3:45, so I've had my makeup on for like a full work day, and I am looking pretty dang oily. I am an oily skinned person though, so that's pretty as expected for my makeup. But I do feel like my blush and like cheek products are super nice and intense, and they didn't fade anywhere. And then as far as my foundation, although I'm oily, I do kind of like the look of my foundation right now. I feel like it makes my skin look a little bit more natural, but still nice and full coverage. I do have some fading going on my chin area, but if you guys remember from earlier, I was kind of struggling with this area anyway. And remember, this side is the side with the primer, and then this side does not have the primer. I think they both kind of look the same, which is what I said earlier. I was kind of expecting them to look the same. But I do think that I experienced quite a bit more creasing on the side with the primer, which is shocking to me. But the weird texture that I was experiencing earlier has actually kind of gone away, I think, with the combination of the makeup kind of mixing in with my natural oils, and then naturally that just kind of mixes the product in. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what's going on there. But I brought you in a bit closer so you can kind of see what's happening around my smile lines. I'm absolutely getting some smile line creasing along with some weird like fading in that area. And then where my makeup is around my nose, I definitely have some fading there, but not so much on this side. I guess I have it kind of on both sides. And then I do have some creasing here. I'm just gonna try and pat that in. But I kind of think if I pat it in here, I'm using the camera viewfinder, so. And then my under eyes, I feel like I have equal creasing, except maybe this side has a little bit more creasing. And again, this is the side with the primer. So the products I would recommend from this line would definitely be the blush and the bronzer. I love how the bronzer has worn throughout the day, and I also really love the color of the bronzer that I have, and I like the fact that it reminds me a lot of my Becca Sunlit bronzer, considering Becca is going to be, you know, exiting the makeup industry. So I really like that bronzer. I really like the blush. I feel like the translucent powder is nice, so if you want to pick it up, you know, I don't think that you would be disappointed, but I don't think it's like anything super special. The primer is a no freaking go. I definitely don't think anyone needs that primer. I don't think anyone needs to bother to make that primer work for them. I guess like some people have different experiences. I think that the reviews on the primer are pretty decent, but in my experience, it just was not good. And then as far as the foundation, I definitely feel like the shade range needs some work. I also I'm not like totally in love with the foundation, but I do like how it's worn throughout the day, and I will definitely be using it again, but it's not my favorite full coverage foundation. I definitely like my Bare Pro, for example, and then I really just like lighter coverage and medium coverage foundations. I like how this one wore. I do also like the finish of it and the coverage of it, but I do feel like I had quite a bit of creasing on both sides of my face. However, since the foundation is cruelty-free, vegan, and has good ingredients in it, I feel like sometimes that is a little bit more hard to come by with full coverage foundations, so I think that this would be a great option if you're looking for those three things. But that is going to be it from me today. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this brand and if you guys are going to be picking up anything. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you aren't already subscribed, definitely go ahead and do so, and hopefully I see you next time.